Hey everybody, welcome back to History Student Reacts. Today we'll be watching HBO's Rome, Episode 4, Stealing from Saturn. So, last time we watched as Caesar arrived in Rome and the Pompeians fled the city. We found out that Niobe hadn't been faithful to Vorenus, but we saw a bit of a reconciliation between the two after Vorenus left Caesar's legions to go and be with his family. I'm excited to see what happens in this episode. Now, if you would like to see the full unedited reaction to this episode of HBO's Rome, which I can't upload to YouTube for copyright reasons, then please go and check out the Patreon. It is linked down below. You'll be able to see all unedited reactions to HBO's Rome, plus other exclusive reactions. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's jump right into this episode. Ugh. What do we have going on here?
Day after tomorrow, we shall be in Capua. You will sleep in a good...
We return to the Pompeians fleeing south, now accompanied by Brutus. That's another thing we saw last episode. Brutus finally took a stand. He's sort of been waffling along for the first couple of episodes. He finally made a decision on his own, and he decided he couldn't stay and watch Caesar march on the city. He felt obligated to go with the Pompeians. And here we have the Pompeians here. Cato is disturbed, as always.
Here we are, refugees in our own land.
We are not refugees. We are maneuvering.
As you say, here we are, maneuvering, while the tyrant sits in Rome.
Yep, Cicero's right.
In my tent, I sleep sound and deep as a child. Though perhaps not tonight.
I'm sorry it bothers you.
Screaming makes poor sauce, I find.
It is interesting seeing all of these fellas dressed up in armor. Of course, some of them are soldiers, like Pompey, but a lot of them, like Cicero, are not military men. We're used to seeing them in togas debating in the Senate, so seeing them in this environment is very odd. I think it's obviously sort of a purposeful juxtaposition to show us how much things are changing.
Well, where is Durio? Where is the gold?
Oh.
Killed Durio, as you suspected. Then they took the gold north on the Via Flaminia and slapped into Caesar's scouts.
Heard from Rome this last hour. Caesar has not got the gold.
My man Volpe always gets to truth, Father. If Caesar does not have it, then his scouts must have kept it for themselves.
Go find these scouts.
I will.
Now!
Jesus. I mean, we saw this play out last time, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen with that business. Now we get a follow-up. Of course, our two characters, Vorenus and Pullo, but in this case, mainly Pullo, continued to be involved in one way or another.
Without gold, he will have to use violence. Once he starts spilling blood, the people will turn on him with a vengeance. Without the people, he has nothing.
I mean, the observation is apt.
Is in effect for the safety of all citizens. Groups of more than 3 men shall not congregate in public spaces.
Did you see that little glance back? That's hilarious. And, this is the kind of thing we see when we start getting an authoritarian government, right? In the United States, we have, our first 10 amendments, and some of them talk about free association and free speech. The First Amendment in particular, this is in a response to something like this, and these sort of laws are generally not popular with the people, this sort of martial law, especially if they feel like it's not necessary. And, as I was saying, I think what Pompey is saying, there's definitely some truth to it. Without the gold, Caesar needs to get gold somehow, or he needs to establish his rules somehow, and so he may have to resort to violence or a more forceful rule, which may quickly become unpopular amongst the people. And up until this point, of course, Caesar has his legions, and he also has his reputation as a populist, a man of the people. If he loses that, then he's probably in trouble.
Maximus, Jupiter Optimus Maximus, Jupiter Optimus Maximus.
As always, we see the what I think appears strange to many of us, interlinking between Roman politics, ritual, religion. All of these things are all mixed up back in ancient Rome.
I humbly ask that auguries be taken, that Rome might know that the gods favor my actions.
You've entered the city under arms.
Ugh.
I must warn you that seldom augurs well.
The gods know my intentions are peaceful.
I hope they do.
People must know it also.
So be it.
As we've seen, ritual and religion, these things are important to a lot of Romans, though important in different ways. There is a variety of religious belief, and Roman religion is very broad. It takes in elements from many other religions. The pantheon is broad, and some people are more religious than others, but, with all of that in mind, religion is important to a lot of people. And these omens and these rituals are important to a lot of people. And so, of course, Caesar would, rather have good omens, a sign from the gods, a good sign from the gods, to show the people that, look, what I'm doing is good, even the gods favor it. Of course, as they pointed out, entering Rome under arms is generally not favored by the gods. Or at least that is what was believed, so, Caesar may have a hard time getting what he wants.
Miserable. Slave of a rebel.
A successful rebel, at least.
I hope your lady is aware of the honor done to her.
She's very aware.
Caesar's hostess is first woman of the city, in effect.
I always find the depiction of slavery to be fascinating. They're very good at showing the reality of the situation and the brutality that a lot of slaves faced. But, here we're talking about ancient slavery, specifically ancient Roman slavery. And as I mentioned before, it is different in some ways than what a lot of people think of, which is, I think, something more akin to sort of modern American chattel slavery. I think to a lot of people, when you think of slavery, that's the first thing your mind turns to. Now, as we've seen, for a lot of people, it was still very brutal, and slavery is always, an injustice against one's liberty, one's autonomy, right? But, as we can see here, slaves filled a variety of roles, which I find very interesting. Some of these enslaved people were in pretty powerful roles, as we're seeing here. One of Caesar's main men, who does a lot of the organizing, completes his orders, is an enslaved man, right? So it's sort of an interesting role for someone like that to fill. Something that would be more unfamiliar to, like I said, a more modern chattel slavery system. But in the ancient world, I would say slaves were used for a variety of things, a much broader variety, as we're seeing here.
Why is Servilia invited to the party?
There he is.
Servilia of Virginia, why is she invited?
Because of her son, obviously. For this you wake me?
Of course. He needs to keep Brutus as his symbolic friend. That's all.
Well, they also do have something between them.
There's no love there. It's just politics.
Dear God, woman, will you let me sleep?
Oh, Mark Antony. What a fella, eh? And of course, Atia, always scheming, trying to get ahead. First woman of Rome, she was referred to as. I mean, that certainly has been true. She's sort of been running things in Caesar's absence.
You've been developing a distinctly feminine anima, and I do not like it.
Although I am only a boy, it is entirely natural that
When
I'm
my
not.
mother's father was your age, there was not a slave girl safe. The men of the Jew were masculine men. Now do as I say and eat them.
Very interesting. And Octavian, as we know from, his real life, he was not a military man. He was probably not what you would call a sort of tough fella. He was probably a little more inward looking. But he was quite a brutal character at times. He was often ill. Basically, he was not the image of the tough military man that Atia might be imagining. So I'm sort of curious how that will play out throughout this series, but he is very competent, and he will rise to the highest level. So he does things his own way.
Sure the lampreys are not overcooked. Boil them long enough to kill them, no more.
Why is Octavia spying on them right now?
Did Mother have Clavius killed?
Oh.
Of course not.
You're sure?
Well, I cannot prove a negative, but I'm sure as can be.
You swear on Jupiter's stone?
I swear on Jupiter's stone.
And, I mean, of course, what we know of Atia, right? If you're looking at this from an outside perspective, of course she did. I mean, we saw that she did, but even if you didn't know that, you'd probably assume it was her. But Octavia, even though she certainly had spats with her mother, I think she still doesn't want to believe that Atia would do such a thing, which is fair enough, very understandable, but I wonder if she will come to the truth eventually, that she did. I mean, clearly she's wondering about it, and Octavian, I don't know if he's in on it, if he knew about it, but from that little expression, I think he suspects or knows the truth as well. I don't know if we'll reach that truth, though. The empty streets as soldiers march on through. Rather eerie compared to the bustling streets we usually see. Back to the Varenus household.
In Narbo, I could buy 10 feasts for this.
Narbo isn't full of corpses and soldiers and decent people too scared to come out of their houses. Plenty of time to throw and do, if you don't mind me saying.
I cannot start in business without a feast, can I? Today is auspicious. It's perfectly safe.
I remember the last time when Sulla had soldiers in the city. Blood, you could paint houses with it.
And Caesar's not Sulla. He's declared martial law. Not to spill blood, but to keep the peace.
Very interesting. I mean, Varenus very much disagrees with what Caesar is doing, but even so, he doesn't see Caesar as a tyrant, or at least he doesn't see him as Sulla. He still believes that Caesar is trying to keep the peace somewhat. And to be fair, I think that's true, you know? I don't think Caesar intends to march on Rome and, start spilling blood. That's not what he wants. Now, will it come to that? Maybe. But it's interesting to see that Varenus still has a bit of faith in Caesar, even though he's abandoned him. Or maybe Varenus just sees the logic. I'm not quite sure.
Divine Janus, I offer this feast to you, and humbly beg that you will be gracious and merciful to me in my house, and that you will smile upon this new business venture I begin today.
Naomi has given some extra prayers, as she should.
His Honor Mark Antony orders your presence.
Now?
Of course not. Next year.
Wow.
Varenus, my dear comrade. Barely recognize you without a bloody sword in your hand.
Okay, naked Mark Antony. We've got more censoring to do.
Cato.
As you say.
Of course you don't find it amusing.
Yeah, and of course you do find it amusing, Mark Antony. Find a little person and call him Cato. That is just the kind of thing you would find hilarious. And just the kind of thing that Varenus would find absolutely not hilarious. Good look at the difference between these two. I am wondering what Mark Antony wants with Varenus. I mean, probably something to do with Varenus abandoning his post. Though I'm sure Varenus feels like his duty has been done.
How's civilian life treating you, huh?
Well enough so far, sir?
Of course. I could have you nailed to a cross for desertion.
I'm no deserter.
Yep.
My time was served. I abided my sacrament. It is you that...
Oh. Yo, watch yourself, Varenus.
Once over the Rubicon, Romans are citizens, not soldiers. I could not legally do other than I did.
Foolish. Like a priest. Blinded by a cowl.
Since the founding of Rome.
Oh, please spare me the founding, Varenus.
Varenus really cannot help himself. But once again, we're seeing a difference, not just between Varenus and Mark Antony, but between sort of different perspectives on the issue. As was described to us, Varenus is a Catonian. He holds the Republic to be sacred. And so he really believes in the legitimacy of the Republic, and he will abide by that. We have someone like Mark Antony or someone like Pullo who really couldn't give a shit about the sanctity of the Republic. Someone like Caesar you know. Well, Caesar does what's best for him, right? I don't think Caesar believes in the sanctity of the Republic necessarily, but he knows that a lot of people do, and so he'd rather work around that. So we have sort of these differing perspectives, perhaps the spectrum from one end to the other. Those who revere the Republic the most, and then on the other end, Mark Antony or Apollo, those who couldn't care less about it. We've been shown that difference many times throughout this show.
Things change. Life is water, not stone.
Then I suppose I will drown.
Do you not see that your precious Republic has long since died? Do you not see that Caesar is trying to save Rome from ruin?
I do not see that.
Enough.
Now, is Caesar going to save the Republic? No, I certainly don't think so, but when Mark Antony talks about the Republic already being dead, there's absolutely truth to that. I mean, even at this point, you know, we're just beginning the next era of civil wars that will engulf Rome. But even before this, Rome has been faced with decades and decades, probably almost 100 years of civil conflict, civil war, uprisings. I mean, Sulla was just mentioned. So the Republic has been declining, weakened for a long time now. And Varenus' sort of full belief in the Republic is almost a bit of a fantasy, to be honest. You know, the Republic barely stands even at this point. And after Caesar marched into the city, of course, that was sort of the final blow. But even before that, the Republic had not much life left in it.
I need you, Varenus. Caesar needs you. There's no better man in the Legion, none more respected by the men. We have hard fighting ahead.
Hard fighting against Romans.
Blood is blood.
Damn.
Would you really have the 13th fasten their crests without you?
And I mean, Varenus is a good example for, I imagine, a lot of people when this happened. Even those who like Caesar, even those who may hold a degree of loyalty to Caesar, they don't want to spill the blood of fellow Romans. Now, in the years to come, Romans killing Romans will become very ordinary. But at this point, it's still something that even a lot of those who are very loyal to Caesar would rather avoid. They don't want to fight their fellow countrymen, you know, their brothers on the other side of the line. Whether metaphorically or actually, literally, families split by this conflict. Romans don't want to fight fellow Romans. Now, that's exactly what's going to happen, but at this point, there are a lot of people who feel the same way as Varenus. And, I mean, you can tell that Varenus doesn't necessarily want to settle down to the life of a grocer, as Mark Antony calls it, of a businessman. He probably prefers serving. But at the same time, he does want to be with his family, right? So I think he'd give a lot to be with his family. And he'd rather not follow what Caesar is doing. So he's in a sort of complicated situation.
You come back to the Legion. You should be inducted into the Evocati as a prefect. Of the first grade. With a signing bonus.
Ooh.
10,000 sestertii.
Sounds like a lot.
I chose this path. I will follow where it leads.
Grieve me, Varenus. You grieve me deeply. Go on, off with you.
Good day, citizen.
Varenus. Next time I see you, I may not be so kind.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't doubt that. Mark Antony's tried the kind way. I wouldn't get in his path again, Varenus. He can be rather vengeful.
Years of leathery Gallic trollops. When did he last see a real lady? And such a beautiful one.
I'm sure she's aged quite a bit since she last saw Caesar. I'm not quite sure how this reunion will be.
50,000 to each of the magistrates' clerks.
So much?
I wish to buy their allegiance outright, not lease it. Have them sign for the money.
And how much for these sub-praetors?
Nil. When they hear how much the clerks got, they'll come begging.
Great. I mean, Caesar's doing what any good dictator, tyrant, or just new management should do. It depends on how you see it, right? He's paying everybody off. You know, he's the new guy in town, as any good Roman emperor does. He's not an emperor, but many will learn from his example. When you start your reign, you gotta start paying everybody. You gotta buy their loyalty. Of course, the issue is, as we've seen, Caesar does not have the money to do that. We might be about to cover that right now.
Penniless without means to run the city. You must kill some rich men and take their money very soon. Else the well will run dry. Very soon.
I plan on killing no one unless absolutely necessary.
Fine, noble strategy. An element of surprise, no doubt.
Later, you may nag me.
And you can believe Caesar. He really doesn't plan on killing anybody unless he has to. I know it can be sort of difficult to take his word on that, given all he's done, but, you know, once again, try to think about it logically. Caesar is a smart man, and he wants to secure his base of support. So he really doesn't want to go around Rome slaughtering people. That looks really bad. He wants to be the new legitimate head of Rome, right? And so he needs the people on his side. Though, of course, he also needs money. Now, in the future, a couple of Caesar's underlings, Mark Antony, most notably Octavian, will do exactly what is being discussed here. They will perform a mass purge of wealthy citizens, and they will take their money. But Caesar doesn't want to do that. He wants to avoid that sort of brutality.
Start to the business. This will be if nobody comes.
Don't worry, they will come.
Poor Vorenus, he's struggling.
As you said.
They will come. And mind now, when they do come, try to smile occasionally.
He's so
Don't
uptight.
bark at them.
Who's this?
The rest is for me. Remember, our guest of honor. Building trades, fire insurance, all...
Lucius Vorenus. Niobe.
Thank you for coming, honest neighbor. I know it can't be easy on such a day.
What's a few soldiers, eh? Wife, Phyllis?
Yes, I suppose under such circumstances, it's probably difficult to get people to come to a party. You know, soldiers running through the streets. You'd probably be pretty afraid. If I got an invitation, I might, you know, say, you know what? Send a letter back. Apologies, Vorenus. I'm afraid of being murdered if I leave my home. Yeah, it's sort of funny to see Vorenus in such a domestic setting, right? I mean, he's such a soldier, all about the routine and the discipline, and he's so uptight. So it's interesting to see him trying to manage in a civilian context.
Sister. All right? All's right, don't worry. Thank
This
you.
can't be little lady, surely not.
Salve, Lucius.
Wrong time, eh?
This is my husband, Vanderbilt here.
Vander, welcome. Honored, Lucius Vorenus.
Thank you. With all the shops shut, we would have whistled for meat.
Oh, we have two parties going on. We see the sort of juxtaposition. I mean, I'm assuming, you know, I'm not that familiar with Roman fashion of any era, but I'm assuming that the bright colored wigs must be accurate. Otherwise, I'm not sure why they would put them in, right? Because it stands out quite a lot. So this must be based on something we actually know about Roman history. Y'all can comment down below if you know a little bit more about Roman high fashion in this time period. But as we've seen, the Romans could be quite gaudy, especially elite Romans, with some of the extreme makeup we've seen before, the wigs. I mean, just Roman architecture. They love to paint stuff bright colors, which might seem a little odd to us, but, you know, this is certainly how the Romans did things. As I mentioned before, we often think of Rome as this austere city of marble, but Rome was a very bustling, busy, and colorful city. And they've shown that in this series, and they continue to show it in several different ways.
Thank you so much for inviting me. My pleasure, Servilia. I insisted you come.
She's such a snake.
Fools you. We're still friends, Nick.
She's such a snake, bro. Oh, man. I mean, Servilia knows it, but she's so
She's a
bad.
good cosmetic slave, I grant you, but a lover for Caesar? Absurd.
Jesus. Here he comes. The man himself. I wonder what Pullo's up to. Ah. That's the
Make way for
fasces,
the
I believe.
proconsul Gaius Julius Caesar, son of...
We can see sort of the bundle of sticks with the axe. That is the fasces. It was a symbol of power, authority, legal authority in Rome. And of course, fasces is what the word fascism is based on. Of course, that is a, 20th century ideology that isn't very much related to this, but, you can see why they'd want to adopt this symbol of Roman power, because that's what it was.
Of Venus, Imperator of the Gallic legions, stand aside.
Imperator, when we think of this word, keep in mind it does not have the same meaning as it will come to have emperor, right? At this point, it's just, successful or general, basically. That's what it means. Don't take more from it than that. Caesar is not, declaring himself emperor. That is not what's happening. That is not what that title means at this point.
Please, you mocked me. It's only your Uncle Gaius. Lift your heads. All of you, lift your heads.
Everyone's nervous, rightfully so.
Revered uncle, welcome. Welcome home.
Quite an awkward environment, but, when the conquering general who's just marched on the city walks into your party, and it seems like this is sort of his first big social engagement, everybody's trying to test the water. What exactly is Caesar here to do? Don't step over the line. Everyone be careful. That's probably what's going through a lot of people's heads right at this moment.
Filia of the Junii, a pleasant honor it is.
Delightful. Your pleasure is mine.
I'm very sorry your son is not here with you.
Oh.
I'm sorry also. I hope you will forgive his absence. He is ever your friend.
I understand completely. Please send Brutus my best regards and assure him he will...
Caesar raising his voice. Very much a play to the public. He wants people to hear this. Obviously a complicated situation. Brutus has just turned against him. That is exactly what has happened. But Brutus's mother, Servilia, is a mistress of Caesar's. They're quite close. And I think Caesar is close to Brutus as well. We've seen that. They're personally close. So there's a whole lot of politics and personal feelings tied up in this. And so right now, there's a lot going on between these two behind the scenes. But out in public, Caesar is saying, I forgive Brutus, basically. I don't blame him for this. I won't punish him. And that is sort of what's going on between them privately as well, That is Servilia's son. And though clearly she has more loyalty to Caesar than she does to her own son, she decided to stay. I'm sure she still wants to advocate for the safety of her son. And so Caesar is confirming that.
Never have reason to regret our friendship. Nor will any of you. Regardless of where your allegiances may have lain in the past.
Yep. And there's Caesar, once again, playing to the public, trying to be and appear merciful. That's what he wants.
Even those unwise men who say that a white bird in a southern quadrant is neither indicant nor negation. Such are the barbarous innovations of our day.
Okay.
We might as well be Syrian.
Who is this character?
Syrians, indeed. Scythians, even.
As Chief Augur, I'm gratified to hear you say so. It was heard you are a man of modish opinion.
That's pure scandal. I believe that religion is the province of our worthy priests. Mere soldiers like myself best not interfere.
That's very gratifying.
Caesar trying to impress the chief augur. Of course, the omens are what they are, but, you know, it can't hurt to get in good with the chief augur, right? Prove to him, of course, I believe in this religious stuff. It's not for me to say. Yeah, sure you do, Caesar. Oh my. Vorenus attempting to dance. I never thought I'd see such a thing. Oh, that's sweet. Come on, man, don't look so shady about it.
Let's get your sister gone. I told you it was a mistake to let her come.
I had to let her come. It would look odd if she wasn't here.
I mean, it makes sense. It would look odd if she wasn't here, but they should leave now. You know, leave early. So this can become a little less awkward for you, Niobe, and for us, the viewers.
Time to go.
Not yet. I like it here.
Time to go.
Let me go, my love.
Lady, please.
Let me go.
Don't cause a scene.
Brave soldier, such a good tale.
Kill us all? Is that what you want?
She is, she's having a good time. She's causing a scene.
You had an agreement. You vowed to Persephone. You vowed you would hold your peace. Have I not held my peace? My husband's husband.
Your husband is a blind fool.
She's had a bit too much wine, I think. She is off her rocker. Though, clearly, she's been under a lot of pressure. You can tell that. She was very upset with, you know, Evander playing with the child for obvious reasons. So you understand, you empathize. She's going through a tough time. But, we really need you to leave right now. Go away. Or at least Niobe needs you to leave. Meltdown now. Oh no. But they caused the biggest possible scene.
Wife?
Cecilia.
Nice.
Tell me, how is Cecilia?
She's healthy, I thank you.
Good.
Fantastic. You don't need to know anything about any of these people. Just make sure your men do.
I recall I forgot her last birthday.
Her birthday?
Remiss of me, I know. Perhaps she would forgive my rudeness were I to send her a gift.
Oh, really? That's not necessary.
Hard to find the right gift for a woman. Eh? What one loves, another scorns.
And perhaps she would accept some money.
There's an idea.
I love the, you know, the two-man show we have going on here. First off, Caesar playing to the public excellently, as he always does. Caesar knows how to play the game. And then his right-hand man, Mark Antony, just following him around, ready to put in a good word here or there, which Mark Antony is also quite good at. He's not quite, you know, the people's man that Caesar is, but he knows where to interject. And, of course, not only is Caesar buttering up the chief augur, but also a lot of these people, he's just bribing them straight up.
1,000 sestertii, say?
Oh, that's very kind of you. I'm afraid my wife is a woman of expensive tastes.
Oh, is she?
Most women often are.
150,000.
And he's negotiating.
She would dress her slaves in silk if I would let her. She eats oysters for breakfast. Daily.
She should be most careful. People often choke on oysters.
200,000.
Oh my.
That's a very generous name.
So, first off, as you can see, this social interaction, you know, this fella is not a complete fool. He's a little bumbling, but he knows exactly what is going on, so that's why he's negotiating. And now we're, you know, Mark Antony's filling his role. We're getting the good cop, bad cop routine as Caesar raises the price. And Mark Antony steps in to say, hey, you're going too far. Remember, we're here to buy you, and if we can't do that, we'll take you out violently, so keep that in mind.
I say appropriate gift. She would be under great obligation
To think well of me would be her only obligation.
She's always thought well of you. It is not unethical she continue to do so.
Okay, great.
We understand each other. Make a note of it. 200 to the Chief Augur.
Thinks he's Midas, the loon.
Yeah. And where's this money coming from?
Janice, tomorrow first thing and have the day absolved. It's costly, but...
An omen is an omen, and this is as bad as they come. No point throwing money at it.
Oh, man. That's a real shame.
Your sister and her husband can never come here again.
I mean, it's a real shame because, you know, all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes with Niobe and, you know, this affair. But also, you know, it ruined Venus's big day, and it seemed like he was starting to have a better time. Not to mention, of course, this is of religious importance to him. A bad omen is a bad omen, right?
Centurion Lucius Vorenus?
Who asks?
His Honor Quintus Pompey.
You best have good reason for this insult.
Tell me where the gold is. And quick about it.
Uh-oh.
Gold. Speak sense.
Sense enough?
Not near. I ask again, what gold?
Stubborn, is it?
Oh, no.
This trollop, we can assume, is your wife. Hold her.
Oh, no.
I cannot speak what I do not know. I do not know of any gold.
You know very well. I seek the treasury gold you took from my father's men.
I took no gold from any man. You are misinformed.
Misinformed.
Oh, no.
You are
I
not...
mean, Vorenus really doesn't know.
I was.
And last week, did you not stop a grain wagon on the Via Flaminia?
We did. Driven by soldiers disguised. We chased the soldiers and left the wagon.
You never thought to look inside.
There was no time. We had orders. Your wagon is still there for all I know.
Lies. Cut her.
Is that Pullo? Oh my goodness.
A clamor for my beloved friend Lucius.
Here comes the man that does know. They're literally looking for the lost gold, and the other of the two men they were looking for, of the scouts, comes in dressed in silk, tossing coins around, while one professes not to know where the gold is. I wonder where the gold went. Quite an entrance, Pullo. Let's see how this goes.
Why so glum and gloomy?
Yep. Arm yourself, everyone.
Who's this then?
His noble honor Quintus Pompey, commander of Tyrrhenian fleet, Neptune's scourge.
Oh, Neptune's scourge.
Looking for a wagon of treasury gold.
Treasury gold.
How exciting.
Oh, Pullo.
Do not test my patience, peasant.
You be off now, short ass. Take this scum with you.
Yes. First off, money solves all problems. Second off, Pullo shows up, you know it's about to get violent. Though, he saved up just in time, or he showed up just in time to save Vorenus.
The way I see it, we put little Quintus here in the Tiber right off. Get us a wagon. Sneak out to where the gold's buried. Dig it up. Ride like Zephyrus for the coast. And get the first tide to Spain.
I'm trying to think.
Of course, that's what you want, Pullo. Pullo's solution to every problem, why don't we just cut loose and go? You know, Vorenus has more things holding him down, though at this point, he's in a lot of trouble. He has been specifically targeted by the Pompeians.
What's wrong? Even if it were not a monstrous sin, to steal sacred property of Rome.
There's that too.
You then ride through the streets on a litter, shouting and singing and broadcasting your theft to all and sundry.
Oh,
At
man.
sunrise, everyone in Rome will know what you did and where you are, here, in my house.
So what's to be done then?
Should have thought a little bit, Pillow.
You will have to give it back. You go direct to Caesar now, bring him Pompey's son as a sweetener. He might show mercy.
Give it back? I don't think so.
That's not advice, that's an order.
Here's me.
You
Come to
can't
share
give
a
orders.
godsend gift with you.
An
and this is
order! Damn you, my home was invaded and my wife near killed on your account.
I mean, Varenus, you can't give orders anymore, but sort of as a friend, that's absolutely fair. Pillow, it's not just you that's in trouble, it's Varenus as well. And he's exactly right. His house invaded, his wife nearly killed. I mean, this is a lot more serious than just you losing your precious gold, my friend. And like we said, Varenus can't just cut and go. This is way more serious than that.
All right. All right. But you'll come with me, though, eh?
This is your mess. You get yourself out of it.
Well, it's
Fine.
both of your mess at this point.
I'll be off then.
What will Pillow do? He always gets himself into more trouble.
Forgive me, I will try to return swiftly.
You know, I mean, obviously it's appealing to just steal the gold and go, but Pillow, if you brought that gold back to Caesar, I'm sure you would have gotten a handsome reward. You know, you would have been well, basically. There was no need to run off with it. Though, if Pillow really does bring it back to Caesar, that is a big issue of Caesar's that has been solved.
Pullo, you scum. What have you done now?
Your Honor, Lucius Varenus said I should come to you.
Easy, soldier. Who is this?
Quintus, son of Pompey.
I mean, that is certainly a sweetener. I'll give you that much.
So it is.
Quintus Malkov. How good to see you, sir.
Explain.
Well, it's like this, Your Honor. This one, come to find the gold.
What gold?
The gold that Pompey's boys stole from the treasury, sir.
Oh my. I would not trust Pillow to talk himself out of this. He could certainly frame this in a way that is favorable to him. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that.
Pompey does not have it.
He doesn't, sir. Now, I meant no disrespect, and had I known the gold was from the treasury, I would have touched it, but... Oh, and there was this girl here, sir. I mean, she's...
Never mind the girl. Speak to the point. Where is the gold?
That's the question.
It's all safe, sir. I buried it. Deep in the woods, a couple of miles from the Flaminian Gate.
Thank you.
If Caesar is happy enough to have found the gold and to have Quintus, then he may let Pillow off the hook. You know, it might be you've done something bad, but the fact that you admitted to it gives me something so much better. I'm hoping Pillow gets off scot-free, even though I don't know if he deserves to.
I'm sorry we meet like this, Quintus. I've only deep respect for your father and his family.
Kiss my arse, you traitorous dog.
Elegant little fellow, isn't he?
You need not fear. Your life is yours still. I'm sending you back to your father with an offer of truce.
A truce?
Quiet.
Are you run mad? When we have them on their backs in the sand.
Be quiet. An offer of equable truce on good terms. If violence continues, it will not be my doing, but that of your father and his allies.
My father.
I mean, we could see what Caesar wants. Mark Antony wants to fight, as always, take advantage of the position that Quintus is in, but Caesar still wants to bring this to an end with the least amount of bloodshed possible. as we've discussed before, first off, Caesar's in a tenuous position, a risky position. He really does not want a full-on civil war if he can avoid it. Also, he would like to avoid the bloodshed because people generally do not like that. And Caesar will certainly be seen as the instigator, given, everything he's done so far. So he still wants some sort of agreement to negotiate. Now, we'll see whether the Pompeians will accept that. Likely not, given the fact that they've fled and they're preparing to fight Caesar on their own terms.
You're sure to regret letting that one live. He has a malevolent spirit.
As many left undead I'll regret before I'm done. Take Pullo and retrieve the gold. Legionary Pullo! You're a thief. A foolish, incompetent thief.
Yes.
But you have served us well in the past, so we will pretend your foolishness is a species of honesty and let you go unpunished.
Oh.
In fact, I think we shall reward...
Lucky again. Pullo always getting himself into trouble, and sometimes always getting himself out of trouble. Usually due to the aid, or at least the advice, of Vorenus, who wants to do things properly.
I do not like to quarrel with fortune, and clearly she's taken you for a pet. When you find
You
the
could say
trove,
that.
give him 100 gold pieces.
Thank you, sir.
As you wish.
And I will say, Pullo, he's a good soldier. He is loyal to himself, first and foremost. Like I said, he wants to cut and run whenever he can. But, secondarily, he is loyal to Caesar. He does believe in Caesar. A lot more than Vorenus does. Vorenus is, in fact, opposed to whatever Caesar is doing. So Pullo, though he is kind of unreliable, and probably wants to escape with his own hide and wealth, aside from that, he can be trusted to stay true to the cause.
By the by, Anthony, never question my judgment in the presence of our enemies. You have a good memory, so you will remember that.
Yeah.
Remember. Dismiss.
You should remember, Antony.
Mark Antony speaks sense. Truce now does not seem tactically correct.
Depends on terms.
Ah.
Ah.
You offer terms that Pompey cannot accept.
Okay.
Cicero-
Okay. I'm very curious to see where this goes. Thankfully, Octavian is here, and he's smarter than all of us, so he can explain exactly what's going on. Mark Antony, more of the common man, wants to fight, go, go, go. Octavian, he sees through what Caesar is doing. And they're sort of on the same page. I like how they're setting this up, because you can kind of see... These are the two men, Mark Antony and Octavian, though he is just a boy, who will come to succeed Caesar. They will be the two who will battle over Caesar's legacy. Of course, there's Lepidus as well, but it's mainly Mark Antony and Octavian. These two will fight to basically take Caesar's place. And so I like that we're seeing this difference between the two. I also like how they're setting up Octavian as someone who really understands the politics as well as Caesar does, if not better. He sees what Caesar is trying to do. And I think it's fitting. It's accurate for his character.
And the Senate can.
Swift.
Hold up, Dominus. There's people watching. Sir, take us somewhere none can see us.
What is this? Is a seizure?
What's in him? Is he poisoned?
As the morbus comitialis, it will pass in a moment. Please, Dominus, shut the door.
Should we not fetch the doctor?
Jesus.
We should not. At all costs, he cannot have his affliction known.
This is
No
a
one will
very
follow a man
violent
Apollo has
seizure.
cursed with the morbus.
Yeah, this is... Take a break from this for a moment. This is a very violent seizure, or a fit of some kind. I think I've heard something about Caesar having seizures, or a fit, or whatever sort of medical affliction this is. Of course, it can be hard to know when it's something that happens thousands of years ago, and of course there's different terminology used. I believe I've heard of this before, perhaps, or maybe not. You guys can tell me if there is historical accuracy to this. I'm not quite sure. But once again, the juxtaposition of this party, which is, rather open by our terms, you could put it that way, and then Caesar having a fit, a rather violent one, as Octavian stands by. He knows now. Again, I'm not entirely sure what the affliction is, if it's epilepsy or something different, and if this even happens. But, imagining you have something like this in the ancient world, perhaps it's not accepted, it's seen as a bad sign, a bad omen, and you don't want to let people know about it. My goodness, that is quite the risk to take, right? Because, of course, you can't control having a fit like that. Could happen at any time. He's frankly lucky that at this moment, it was only around Octavian. He's someone that can be trusted, but had it happened only minutes earlier, Caesar would have been in a lot of trouble.
I regret I will not be coming home with you immediately.
Oh?
But you're not well.
Oh, really? I'm quite recovered. I have urgent business with my marsupial clerks.
Business at night. It is not proper.
Not proper, but necessary. I have to be ready to leave the city and pursue Pompey as soon as he refuses truce.
He will refuse.
I believe so.
Bring the Senate back in while still alienating Pompey. Not a bad idea to try. I mean, Pompey will always be a threat. But if you can bring many of the senators back, get the Senate in order, that returns a lot of the legitimacy to Rome. And perhaps you can keep the Senate under better control than you could keep Pompey. He was basically a rival warlord at this point. I mean, that's what we're talking about. A rival big man, a rival authoritarian. This is why he's already forgiven Brutus for whatever he's going to do.
What does he say?
Ridiculous.
What does he say? Nothing worth repeating.
Oh, really, Pompey? Nothing worth repeating. I think the rest of your little court might be interested.
But he offers a truce. On what terms?
Truce with that scum. Are you women? I will have them raped by dogs.
Silence! Get out! Excuse him, he has been
Tactful.
ill-used, but he is right. There can be no truce.
Of course not.
But Caesar does not ask for so much. Legal immunity. Mutual disarmament.
I must disarm, I'm lawful constant.
Oh, we might see a sort of breakdown of the party here, because remember, of course, Caesar marches on Rome. This is a very radical action, and so a lot of people leave. Conservatives, those very opposed to Caesar, but also moderates, those who may have been more neutral on Caesar. And we're seeing that here. Of course, we have Pompey, who is, as I mentioned, in direct competition with the man. He's never going to stop opposing Caesar. We also have Cato, the most strident conservative of the group. He is really an arch-conservative. He is the most vocal spokesperson of the faction. He will also oppose Caesar until his dying day. But we have some others, primarily the moderates, led by Cicero, who are far more interested in negotiating with Caesar. Cicero wants to do whatever he feels is best for Rome, and whatever he feels is best for Rome is a little more fluid than it is to someone like Cato. Cicero is willing to work with both sides if he thinks it will lead to a better outcome.
Of Rome. He is a criminal. There is nothing mutual in it.
He may be a criminal, but he has the city. We must deal with the facts.
Fact is, he is a traitor.
Now let us be fair. Consul, he has been remarkably peaceable.
And
He has not killed your ally.
Brutus, who, of course, left to be with the Pompeians, but was close to Caesar through his mother. And while, it might seem a little silly to defend a man, an authoritarian has just marched on your capital city, Brutus does make a fair point, which is, as we've discussed, Caesar wants to be merciful, and so far he has been. He's not violated the property of Pompeians. He hasn't killed Pompey's allies. He said at that big gathering they had, look, regardless of your past affiliation, we're all good. I'm not going to be meting out punishment to you guys. So, that's something to think about if you're someone who's maybe a little closer towards the middle.
Allies or violated your property.
We should look on this offer seriously.
Do you not see his stratagem? He is trying to drive a wedge between us.
Perhaps so,
But truce would buy us time, at least.
But Quintus is right. You are women.
Fools. Tell me that.
Uh-oh.
I will go away and I will never come back.
Back to this whole drama.
And the souls of my children, I love him.
Pullo is always seeing things he should not see.
Titus Pullo, what joy! They let you go alive then?
They did. Where's Varenus?
He's gone to make amends at the shrine of Janus. You know Evander Pulchio, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband.
Will Pullo say something to Varenus? That is his boy, after all.
Great Jupiter.
I mean, he clearly does not approve of this situation. I mean, we can remember that conversation he had with Niobe when he was injured and she was taking care of him, where, once again, Pullo's always hearing things he shouldn't be hearing, but she was talking about how unsatisfied she was. And Pullo was defending Varenus. Even though they've had a rocky relationship, you could say that at the least. Both Niobe and Varenus, and Pullo and Varenus have had rocky relationships. But Pullo so far has been fairly faithful to Varenus, and he has listened to him when it really comes down to it, after he's made plenty of mistakes. So, I do think, they are buddies. He has some sort of bond to him. I'm not sure if he's going to approach him about this in particular. Guess we'll see.
Graciously give us clear signs within the bounds I have traced. The auguries are good.
So, we can see, and this is absolutely true, there are some, true believers in this religious stuff, but there are some who are just using it to their advantage, like this chief augur. Corrupt as they come. And Caesar, who knows this, and Caesar, who also doesn't really hold the Republic as sacrosanct, is willing to schmooze, spend a bit of money, butter people up, and he can get the omens he wants. And, I mean, that's, I think, how it was, Like I said, there were a lot of true believers, and a lot of people, like Cato, who truly believed in the divinity of the Republic and all that kind of business, but there were also plenty of people who were willing to work around the margins a little bit. Good day for Caesar. He found his money, and he's getting the approval he needs. Alright. That was a great episode. Some very interesting stuff this episode. We see the continued negotiations between the Caesarians and the Pompeians. Caesar is trying to, cut them down the middle. He wants to separate Pompey and, the extreme conservatives from the more moderate senators who fled alongside the other Pompeians. Very interesting. We see a lot of personal drama, the whole business with Niobe and Evander and Varenus, and then the whole business with Caesar and Servilia and Attia and, his wife, Calpurnia. A lot going on. Not to mention, Caesar retrieved the gold because Pullo, on the orders of Varenus, who actually doesn't have the authority to order him around anymore, but Pullo listened, returned the gold, and he got let off with his wife with his life and a bit of gold. Plus, that slave girl, who we haven't really seen much of. I'm not sure what her deal is. I'm sure we'll get more on her later. So yeah, some really interesting stuff. I really enjoyed this episode. As I said at the beginning, if you guys want to see the full unedited reaction, then please check it out on Patreon. It's linked down below. I can't put the full unedited reaction up on YouTube due to copyright, but you'll be able to see it on Patreon. And if you're watching this on Patreon, thank you guys very much for the support. I hope you're enjoying the series. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, I hope you guys are having a good day today, and I will see you all again next time. Goodbye.